very interesting papers, and I feel privileged that Professor Golder's paper is here. And I find it really hard to kind of, find anything that I want to say that's could add some thing to this paper. Really, we have 3 papers in this session. Professor Vishwanath Golder and his team. They will present their paper on impact of cyclones on manufacturing firms in India. So you can 20 minutes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Your co-authors are also here.
The co-authors are here, sir?
No. No.
Okay.
She's not.
Okay.
I have not seen it anyway. It's this is the outline, introduction and revision for the paper, study objective, data coverage, key findings, geometric model and specification and estimations. Try to see the key findings have been given before the results, because I thought I would keep the interest of the audience first. So immediately I say who done it, and then so how I came to this result.
Yeah, very right.
Yes.
It doesn't. I'm not able to move it. Is it this one?
Yes, you will be there. Next one.
Which one? Oh, I have to use the arrow.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now the main, since I have 20 minutes, I'll just briefly say what is. Now the frequency and intensity of cyclones going up, climate change, economic damages due to tropical cyclones are expected to increase substantially. Now, India has a vast coastline, and therefore it is exposed to 10% of the world's cyclones. And a study by Ray and others has shown that there have been 117 cyclones in 2019, and about 40,000 people have died, or 345 each. And 5,100. India's annual loss from cyclones is expected to be $1 billion. And if climate change leads to intensification of cyclones, the annual loss could be $2 billion. Compare that with the China, whose expected loss is $7 billion, and under worst scenario, it could go to 23. Now, why is this issue important? This issue is important in mathematics because recently in COP27, because of the problems of loss and damages, a fund has been set to take care to provide funding for vulnerable countries affected by extreme weather events. And loss and damages estimation mechanism to minimize them will be an important issue from the policy and even from our bargaining and discussion, policy discussion. How much is the loss? So the paper is really directed for that. To make an estimate of the loss, which our negotiators in international relations. So this objective is to make an estimate of the impact of cyclones on manufacturing firms, impact on sales, and total assets are estimated geometrically. Basic data from the Travis database of CMI, but I am using here, we are using here information on plant location, which is available within. The analysis is only confined to manufacturing firms, and it's confined to only those firms which have up to 3 factories. Beyond that, it becomes a problem. So in this study, only up to 3 factories, companies having up to 3 factories. Problems given the last bullet point. If a company has 9 factories, only 1 factory is in a district affected by cyclones, 8 factories in other districts, how much effect would it be? Is it not the same as a company having only 1 factory and that factory is in the district where cyclone occurred? So to avoid this complication, only study is done with companies having up to 3. And these are the cyclones. There are 23 cyclones in this period of 2008 up to 19, which are being covered. In 19, there were 4 Fani, Vayu, Aha and Hulu. And there are such names also for all different cyclones. And only most of the cyclones affect the eastern coast. And there are very few cyclones which affect the western coast or the northeast, but there are some. Now, these are two papers which are not much literature with which we shall be comparing our results. One is a paper by Elliott and others, which have done a similar study for Chinese manufacturing, published in JIM, and a paper by Pelli and associates who have done a study for India using Prowess database. So we are very surprised to find this paper. Exactly same thing is being done. Right? And this is available 2020. This is the Indian map, and you can see where the cyclones mainly come. It is generally Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, and bit of Tamil Nadu. It's mainly Andhra Pradesh and Odisha. This shows the number of districts that has been affected by cyclones over time, and the green line shows the number of cyclones. And the colors have been chosen that it is not very clear here. Nonetheless, the bluish ones are the ones which are cyclonic storm, and then there is very severe cyclonic storm, very severe, and extremely severe. So the extremely severe, the last one bar, which is 2019, had at least one extremely severe cyclone. This compares China and India. The bluish lines are for China. These are the number of typhoons they are having. And the other greenish lines are for India. How many cyclones? But you can see that there is an upward trend. See, over time, India is now facing more and more cyclones. We are not considering any cyclone. It must make a landfall in India. If it does not make a landfall, that is not counted. And in China, on average, they are getting 9 typhoons in a year. We used to get about 1 or 2. But more lately, so look at 17, 18, 19, we had 4 cyclones each year. 22 was better. Sorry, 21. 22 was better. This year, only 2. I think one of them came in Chennai.
But it is yet to come. Some more will
There's
come.
one more to come, I believe.
Okay, so my bar will go up from 4 to 3. So my point will still remain valid that there is an upward trend in the number. And if it is because of climate change, so this additional loss is something we could claim from the losses and damage, whatever fund I mentioned, and go there and say this is the additional extra here. So what is the main finding? Our finding is that there is a 4 to 6% dip in sales and about 2.2 to 3% dip in assets of a manufacturing firm following the incidence of a cyclone in case its factory is in the district by the cyclone. And Pelli paper, it says cyclone storm destroys for India, destroys on average 4% of fixed assets and 5% of assets. So by and large, similar. The bottom there's a mention about Chinese study, which says 3%, 7%, 3.7% loss in sales because of cyclone. So we are more or less broadly on this sector. So this shows how is our paper different from Pelli. This is one firm which has a headquarters. What we are doing is we are asking the question, does the firm have any factory which is in a district in which a cyclone is? If it is then our dummy variable becomes 1. Otherwise, it's 0. What Pelli is doing is they are computing some sort of an average wind speed at the headquarters and each of the factories. First, geolocating each office and factories. And at that point, what was the wind speed? They are taking an average and using that as a limit. So this is the difference between the total loss due to cyclone, according to the estimates by the China, Elliott, in 2000 to 2006 was 3.2 billion per year, amounting to 1% loss of climate. But India, it's difficult to make an immediate estimate because the data have used at Prowess. But once the elasticities and figures are obtained from Prowess, that has been applied to ASI data. Because we know cyclones cause 5% loss in sales. And in ASI data for 2008, we know the district location of each factory. So we could connect the district, cyclone and factory and get an estimate at the national level. At the national level, the loss is 1.4 billion loss in sales. And if you add also loss in assets, that comes to 1.7 billion. But there is a difference. The Chinese paper is at 2017 prices. The Indian estimate is at 2008 prices. So if you adjust that and bring both at 2017 prices, India's loss will be about 2 billion. Looking at inflation and exchange rate change. And because 2008 there were only 2 cyclones, now we are getting 4 cyclones each year. So our annual loss will be 4 billion. That means our loss is much bigger than China. At least these numbers, that's interesting. That's quite a big number. And so this is, now we complete. The econometrics, basically an equation is being estimated to explain sales. And there are a set of variables. C is a dummy variable, cyclone. It takes value 1 if the company had a factory in a district in which there was rain, in that particular. Otherwise, it is the same. 0. X is a set of controls, age, export intensity, etc. Labor product. The equation estimation also uses state-wise trends as this is the equation for capital. So capital depends on last year's capital stock, the dummy for cyclone, and a set of control variables. These include profitability, capital intensity, debt equity ratio. So how the estimation is done? The sales model is estimated by fixed model, and the capital is a bit complicated because there is a lag dependent variable coming on the right hand side. Therefore, what has been done is to use an instrument variable. So first equation has been transformed into a first difference form. That is, instead of k, take delta k as the dependent variable, and delta k t minus 1 year lag is the explanatory variable, and it has been instrumented by capital stock of period t minus 2. And with the expenditure on repair and maintenance and insurance, those are used as instrument variable. This is the result. The sales equation, cyclone dummy, work year intensity, lag, labor productivity, and so on. One equation for firms having only 1 plant, and one equation of firms having 1 to 3 plants, but all of them in the same state. And you can see that there is a negative. This is the equation for K. Here, the dependent variable is change in K, and explanatory variable is change in K, T minus 1, and cyclone dummy, all they are in difference form. So we get a positive effect of profit, negative effect of debt equity ratio, and negative effect of cyclones. And the coefficient is about minus 1.4. There are different variants. Ultimately, we come to a figure of, but there is C and there is T minus 1, T minus. So you add that up and you can get around 2%. There are other results. Cyclones adversely affects sales of small firms, but not of large. Cyclone adversely affects assets of firms, whether they are large. If firm has high trade technology orientation, its sales are less affected. Why this happens, we don't know, but we would like to know from you. How is this possible? The robustness checks have been done by estimating it only for coastal state, replacing state-wise trends by state-by-year dummies. Then we have a difference in difference estimator. Different things have been done. Ultimately, results should confirm that this is what we are getting. That there is about 4 to 6% fall in sales and about 2 to 3% fall in sales. This compares the fall in sales for different types of factories. I can't see it from very far. I don't know if you are able to see it. Nonetheless, I think it says on the top, participating in GVC, not participating in GVC. If you are participating in GVCs, less fall in sales. If you are not participant one, or you have an ICT or you don't have ICT, you have R&D, non-R&D. So anyway, wherever some firm is engaged in R&D, investing in ICT, engaged in a very global value chain, they are less affected. That means their sales fall. But if somebody is a non-R&D, not importing the capital goods, not doing any R&D, not investing into ICT, not into export, not into import, not into GVC, oh, that's all right. So it will be about 8% fall. And why this is happening, we don't know, but this is what the results show. And if you look at the bottom, large, medium, small, the small has the worst effect of the large are able to somehow manage and their sales don't fall. This is the conclusion. There is about 4 to 6% dip in sales, about 2 to 3% dip in total assets of a manufacturing firms following the Ethiopian cyclone. The district where the plant of a firm is located. The fall in sales caused by cyclone is found for firms relatively small in size. The effect of multi-plant farm with firms with plants in different states may be small or negative, especially if the firm have a high trade technology. Cyclones cause a fall in total assets both for big firms and small. Adverse effect of cyclone sales is relatively less for firms that are engaged in R&D or technology import or both, and firms that are importing assets. They are somehow able to maintain their sales. It is substantially lower for firms that have relatively greater use of IT or ITES. They are also less. Firms which are participating in global value chains are less affected. Their sales don't fall. Those not participating. Now there is a study recently which has shown that cyclones and other things affect the foreign direct. So foreign direct they shy away from that region. Once a cyclone is there, they don't invest there. So if this is true, cyclones may discourage FDI in those regions and thereby affect. And finally, it is worthwhile to make a distinction between quick and gradual onset of climate effect on manufacturing, like cyclones. But there are many gradual effects coming over time. Temperature going up, people are not productively goes down. Those are many effects that are coming also, climate change. But that in this paper does not, but that needs to be taken. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Very, very interesting and paper, I think, in an area where it was so little done and especially for our country. And I just have a couple of, I would say, clarificatory kind of questions. Now, this is when you were comparing your own study with the parallel one for this country using same paper. Why you have used only a cyclone dummy? They have tried to capture the intensity as well. So wouldn't you think that that would be a better measure of the a cyclone than just a dummy of whether it is located in a cyclone prone area or not? That is one thing, and perhaps the number of cyclones that happen could also be factored in, because that matter instead of saying, because some may be less severe than others. So we can't say if there are 4 cyclones in a year, the loss would be 4 times as much. So that could that is something that I would like this paper to have seen. Otherwise, it's extremely well detailed, and every little thing that you have tried to put in, whatever is needed, I think it is here. But your figure 7 and the conclusions based on that doesn't seem anything unusual, because you first said it's the small firms that are indeed affected, and all of these seem to indicate things that large firms, whether it is R&D or global value chain, something connected to larger than smaller firms. So that's not really something that's paradox or question. That's the other thing. And I think this is all I have to say, and I throw it open to the rest of you to raise questions, but I appreciate it. It's a really very good thing. Yes.
This is a under research area, despite the references he has given. Nadia Deutsch has also been working on this. You may be aware of that because he has presented some of the results in our conferences earlier. So we can share each other's knowledge. The question I want to ask is, if small and medium firms are also encouraged, become more technology intensive. Technology intensity need not be only for large firms. Small firms can also be technology intensive. They can be outgrowth of technology parks and things of so on. And if they are also value chain connected, then will they be less affected? But like is it the policy implication? In that case, you don't throw up your hand. You say, yes, you are badly affected because your size is small, but you can compensate it by joining value chains and also by spending more on technology rather than rebuilding the whole factory after you destroyed it. Second destruction is factory is destroyed. So this is something which will be important for policy. Thank you.
Yes, maybe we can do 3 quick questions over there.
Yeah, I have a question. Why are firms that are in GVCs less affected than those that are not?
Sorry.
You said that firms that are participating in global value chains are less affected by the cyclone damage than firms that are not participating. So what is the difference? Why are they different?
Maybe I take up these and then,
What-
good, let me take.
Yeah. So you will address all questions together.
Okay.
Just, yeah, we have.
So I thought it was a very interesting paper because you're trying to also quantify the loss or the impact of climate change in terms of sales, in terms of assets, and that then means why industry needs to look at this problem. It's much closer home than something which generally it's good to avoid. So I thought the quantification was very interesting. One question that came to mind was you also mentioned that when we're comparing with India and China, we're seeing how different we are. And if in more recent years we are finding the frequency of cyclones going up here, are you also seeing the frequency of their vulnerability to climate change being higher? Are we more vulnerable, and is it because we have greater amount of a coastline? What did you end up looking at that dimension?
You can have yours.
With respect to the cyclone and particularly firm, I'm asking, I think the question which is not so difficult, actually, I understand because data are not quite clear. But so when we take sales, sales is quite an operational part of a factory actually. And when we have cyclone, it's not only the cyclone which impact at the moment because it has a carried over impact also. Because like what we have seen in Hudur, in Andhra, particularly Visakhapatnam area, there have been a long days of blackout actually. Typically 15 to 20 days of blackout actually. There is no power supply because all poles were destroyed actually. So how the sales are accounting in such situations where the cyclone is impacting, but then there is a blackout or service failure actually in such conditions.
So I think, sir, can I add one more?
Yeah.
You said the FDI, it acts as an FDI deterrent.
No, I said at the end that some recent study done shows that these natural calamities discourage FDI in that region.
Okay,
Wherever it occurs,
Right.
earthquake or
right.
FDI transferring.
Yeah, so is there also a tendency for these firms which are small and most affected to exit?
That way I don't.
Yeah, that could be another thing probably we might need to look at. And you mentioned insurance as a cost of.
No, you see, I think I need to clarify that immediately. You see, what happens is in sort of econometric modeling, because the same variable is coming with 1 year lag as an explanatory variable. So there is what we call the automatic correlation with the error term. So this creates a problem in the estimation because KT is being regressed on KT minus 1 plus other things plus your error term. The KT minus 1 will automatically be correlated with the error term. And therefore you will not get a consistent estimate of parameters. So what is done is, there are two options. Either you do something which is known as the generalized method of moods. Or what you can do is, instead of KT minus 1, it is getting instrumented. In a way, it's getting replaced by something else which is correlated with it, but not
Okay.
correlated with the error. So repair and maintenance, insurance, how much they spent 2 years ago, is correlated with capital, but not entering into the essential. So that is an instrument. So let me thank you very much for all these questions. Must say, this was just written by three of us more as an interesting, fun exercise rather than really serious academic paper, unless whatever it has become. And there are many questions for which we don't know the answer. I hope from this audience there might be some bodies. But that maybe we have to find out. Now, starting from the chair's questions. The two papers that we had, the paper on China and the paper on India by Delhi and others, they are a team of 5-6 people with geographers and other scientists. Here are 3 economists. So we cannot say how much is the wind speed. They are geolocating each interestingly, from Pravesh data from the addresses, they are geolocating each factory. And at that point, what was the wind speed at the time of the cyclone, that they are computing, and then they are taking a weighted average. So they have the manpower to do it. We don't have the manpower.
But it's still not possible to call it severe or.
That we can. I'll come. Now, what we have done is a simple method which any other person can easily do. Because for every year we know this cyclone, which were the districts which were affected, and in our data we are seeing these are the 1,000 companies. Out of these companies, which has a factory in that district. So that is the way we are. There is obviously a problem because a company may have 3 factories, 2 of them are in Delhi, 1 is in Odisha. The Odisha factory is affected, its total sales will not be as much affected as another company whose all the 3 factories are in Odisha. So these are obviously issues, operational issues, but nothing can be done. So we did try to get some help because we wanted to show at least for 1 year, one cyclone, that the choice of our districts in our study exactly matches the wind speed. Unfortunately, even this we could not do because we don't have district-wise wind speed data. Or nobody could solve that mathematical equation by which from a given cyclone, its speed, given the initial landfall point and the speed at that time, what would be the wind speed in different districts of Odisha? Can that mathematically be computed? There is a mathematical formula. But unfortunately, we did not solve it. We are trying to do something. Now, there is, of course, it is right that something severe and something less severe, that we have not been really successful. Actually, we did try, but we have not been successful. So that is not coming. But certainly, certain extremely severe cyclone and only simple cyclone storm are different. So maybe I will keep this in mind. We'll try to estimate by seeing the intensity of the cyclone. Obviously, effect should be greater. Now, large firm versus small firm, this question has come several times. And we really do not know why the small firms are more affected in our data. But at present, what we are doing is we are giving the facts. This is what we find. The next step, we'll try to find the explanation as to what could be the possible reason. But one possible reason is that the large firms either they're well protected or they think of some way, or I don't know what they do, so that their sales don't. Those who are engaged in international trade, especially in global value chain, I don't think they can afford to do sales. They will somehow manage. So that is what is our data showing, that those who are bigger into the global value chain, their sales fall, say maybe 1%. But those who are not into that, their sales go down. Obviously, but the point one raised was that it is not really only the effect of the day of the cyclone. subsequently, if the power system get disturbed, those losses will be always there. But everybody should suffer. Why isn't everybody suffering? Only the small ones are suffering. And the those who are more into more sort of more technologically oriented, trade oriented, they are somehow thinking of certain other ways of getting around. Or either they may be keeping bigger inventories so that they are able to still able to sell, while the others are not able to maintain those bigger inventories. I really do not, but this is an issue. Thank you.
Next paper, yeah, from paper. Okay. So this is on figure and photo. Our profit complements evidence from Indian manufacturing. So this morning, Professor Narayanan had raised it as an interesting thing, a question for which we are looking to see what we are. How your paper comes with something.
Yes, completed. I've been a legal student, very well, very good.
Very good.
As all of us know, and then it is one of the largest contributors to the GHG emission, and almost 70% is coming from Europe. And the second point is basically a lot of study has been done on this, particularly since 1980s, Uvalia, and Mitra. Then Sahu and Narayanan and a lot of other studies are there, which actually discuss about the productivity. I'm not discussing too much on that. There are agreements and disagreements on methodology, on which variables to use, which deflators to be used. And this is precisely one of the starting point of my PhD also as well. So based on this, we will be focusing on two major research areas. The first one is the role of the market instrument in emission control, because NORDAC is saying internationally or arguing in terms of the tax policy. So for the simplification of the idea, we are taking the Petroleum tax into the analysis. The second question is basically that is not been linked, and which is we feel like one of the major contribution of the of our study, that is being linking the Petroleum tax with any tax may have any kind of spillover effects. So these are basically some review of review of literature which instigated us to get into the research question. Everything is getting back to the argument of the PQ, where he is suggesting that a tax collection may help to minimize the gap between the private and social costs due to the which is happening due to the negative externality. Now for the next three decades, it was neglected partially because the focus was on Keynes versus classics, and many people did not want to take up the idea of PQ because of the government intervention in the market. Now, once more conversation started depending on environmental aspects, then everybody tried to look into this, and many of them argued in favor of PQ. On the contrary, Post came into the picture, and Post obviously Post all of us know. And he stated that with the costless transaction and pure economic agents, if we have a well-defined property right, then we can actually address the problem. In fact, the PQBN tax can actually create a problem or distortion to the market. At the same time, there was two separate or two clear-cut groups. One is basically which was following the PQBN, the other one is following the Post, which is Gaussian. And then there was a lot of argument on which they agreed and disagreed over both the ideas, and most of them are actually theoretical. So the main issue is one idea gave the birth of PQBN taxation, the other idea gave the birth of the market cap and trade policies. In between, Bauman and Rhodes also came with their own policy, which they specified about the second best policy, and they equated tax with marginal demand, which is actually very difficult to be implemented. And one of the major issues with this kind of literature for the next 2 decades in 1970s and 1980s, which is basically these are discussing everything in terms of perfect competition, which rarely exists in the market, and that is why many of them suggested hybrid policy and second best policy. But once again, it is very difficult to implement. That's why the entire argument went back to PQ, and since 1990s, lot of negotiations have started, and particularly the Coalition Review and the Kyoto Protocol and others. So during 90s, the modules like rights and which also argued in favor of technology. That if technology is coupled with the price system, then basically it can help in to minimize all sorts of problems. So in this process, we get into the Porter and Elias idea of this is basically known as Porter hypothesis, which suggested that the environmental regulation helps technological advancement. So it will increase the productivity and it will increase the technological advancement. Later on, Jaffe and Palmer said that this is the weak version of the Porter hypothesis. We must investigate more into that. And then he was arguing in terms of multiple things. One of them is basically the environmental achievement. So basically, we can take either emission or environmental or energy efficiency or energy intensity, whatever it is, and this is basically known as conversion of different types. So these are the two things. In case of Madras, the big version of Porter hypothesis is being divided on two types of, or emphasized on two types of innovation. One is input innovation, the other one is output innovation. Now, this is the theoretical model that we have tried to develop that justify our theoretical empirical findings, and these are the assumptions which based on which we have done this estimation, and this is and the Conrad's framework is kind of near similar to that, which he discussed in terms of waste management. So our assumption was like the follows: the in a condition, then of waste energy that is used that is not getting translated into output production. So one of the part of that is basically getting emitted, and the part which is basically getting emitted, a fixed proportion of that can be reused as the secondary energy. So that means if we go by no usage of secondary energy, there is an energy efficiency gain, and that is why precisely we can say energy intensity or energy efficiency can be a proxy for the emission. So I did not give the extensive model, it is already given in the book. And this is how I built the layer of the framework. So we started with the neoclassical production function, which says y is equal to f of AL, capital and labor. We extended it for energy and material as well. But in case of energy, we are specifying gross energy. Because gross energy is divided into two components. One is basically emission, the other one is net energy that is being used in the production. Now the part of emission is extracted that we assume, and we assume a unit production function. Or fixed proportion of that is, and fixed proportion of that is used as the secondary image. Now this has two impacts. The first impact is it helps estimating the effect of taxes on recycling and technology. So we can actually compare between the energy taxes and the emission taxes. That is point number one. I'll explain what are the findings. But before that, we can incorporate the net energy used in the main production function of the neoclassical production function that we started for. And the initial one can be stated as the inefficient one, and this one can be stated as the efficient one, which is confronted with the GEUs. Now, as a complementary thing, we have to bring technology into the factor, and because we divided the entire argument on the basis of whether the recycling intensity will go up, that is, the energy intensity or energy efficiency will go up or down because of the tax implementation, and depending on whether it is autonomous or endogenous, we have different kind of results. If it is endogenous, then technology comes into the picture, and we have some kind of correlated effects. So what are the impressions of this model? First is for the polluting firms, tax will encourage recycling intensity. So what we get is basically the emission coefficient value is what is emission coefficient? That is the energy used divided by the gross emission. Emission divided by the gross energy used. So this is if it is beyond 0.5, then it is we are assigning this or we are specifying this form as polluting, or otherwise it is non-polluting. So energy tax is more effective. That is what we found in terms of emission tax. As compared to emission tax in reducing emission. But this is coming at the cost of output reduction. In case of energy tax, output will be reduced more, so the private firms will be willing to prefer, or they may prefer emission tax over the energy tax. Next is tax induces technological advancement. If composite elasticity is negative, so composite elasticity is basically divided into three parts. One part is giving the partial effect through chain rule, the effect of technology on net energy use through the price. And these effects should exceed the sum of the direct effect of technology on net energy consumption and emission coefficient. And whatever we have derived, we basically get the result that if Porter hypothesis is holding true, then only this tax is getting this tax is basically beneficial for the emission control. Now, these are our models. This is the empirical analysis. So this is the data and variable. We have used the data and variable from the CMI Progress and the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So so we have three variables to justify the strong hypothesis. We have taken energy intensity, which is the expense ratio between energy consumption and sales. CLP we have measured by using the relation between method. R&D we have used by spending on R&D. And then instrument we have used is binary variable. If it is one, it is taking the value one. If the actual energy intensity is higher than the average energy intensity, otherwise it takes a value 0. Similarly, we have based on the MOEFCC, we have 4 classifications of the forms: red, orange, green, and white. Now, red is the most polluting one, followed by orange, green, and white. Now, in orange, almost 60% forms belong to the red forms, and there are very less number of forms in white. So we can't use white as the base category, and as a control, we have used the age and the EXI, that is log of export intensity. So these are the benchmark findings of the distribution. I'm skipping that. And the input innovation is basically the R&D, and the output innovation is basically the TFP ones that we have used to augment the endogeneity. We have used the lab variables and we have used 2SLS. So these are giving the weak version of the Porter hypothesis, and for the strong version we analyze the energy intensity part. Now, this is our findings. So model one basically helps us to show that there is a positive impact on our R&D on R&D of R&D on its black value, and tax is actually negative. So either the firms are non-polluting or because the elasticity is down. Either of these two can be true. So to check that, we went for output innovation and we take the interaction effects between tax into rate and tax into orange. So tax into red means basically it is polluting. So if tax is being implemented on the polluting industry, then TFP is actually falling. So which is refuting the weight version of the Porter hypothesis on innovation, on innovation, both on input innovation and the output innovation. So we have for the overseas state, we have also used GMM and we have findings of changes. So next we find we estimate the determinants of the energy intensity. Now in case of energy intensity, we find the impact of the rebound, but the crowding of the facility is not sufficient enough to gain the energy efficiency. So one-time energy investment encouragement is not at all acceptable. And same kind of thing is being observed for TFP, but the crowding out effect is actually less. In case of tax, we are finding that these taxes are positive, so it is actually suggesting a strong version for the it is suggesting funds can be polluting. Now to justify that, we have taken the interaction effect. Now in case of interaction effect, we find the interaction effect as negative. That means if on polluting firms tax is being implemented, then the energy intensity is coming down. That means strong version of the is actually true. We have also estimated for the we are getting the similar kind of results. So these are the discussions. Polluting firms uses energy intensity interaction. It is from the same holds true for P2 and water. This is TFP confirms productivity dilemma through the long run of the land. The enemy panel gives the short-term and the long-run estimates. Oil farms and export intensive farms are significant. These are the conclusions. There is no evidence of the from period of its implementation. For the polluting farms, this is justified. This is validated from the proportion of the Porter hypothesis. Environmental regulation by market instrument helps reduce energy intensity for polluting farms, validating pH. Old farms and energy intensive, food intensive farms should be regulated in terms of sustainable policy because they are highly energy intensive and both in terms of farm performance and energy policy management should be taken care. Thank you.
Data distributions understands to just look at this. And there is it long or there's a negative chance one is now long.
So we have taken the block. So that is why
This paper is long. Not exactly. Okay, then. And yes, so you should enter through the answers every day of documentary, the age and yeah, it's a very extensive video and also has been supported with several very interesting paper. And just one more note before I ask you I think it's not because of the perception
Output basically, we have liquid innovation and output. And basically, the R&D is getting translated, not helping the PhD implement is not. That is the take in case of input innovation. So if you are taking Y is equal to F of BALM. So in case of energy, since we are implementing the technology, so it becomes a function of technology itself, and technology we are representing in terms of R&D.
That's right. What is output innovation? I would think to become different type of knowledge. I know.
Yeah, so I'm actually interested on this kind of evaluation also. One is clear from the output, right? Second, the input from the R&D, I mean, the firms are spending on R&D, on energy innovation.
No, I understood, but I'm still not sure what is output innovation for me and the proxy for that, a good proxy or whatever.
Yeah, so productivity is defined as output innovation in this set of things.
Productivity is,
Because we are taking R&D as another function. So in this set of literature, we are explaining about the.
but it still looks like a very,
And then see for all the innovation, by R&D.
Best and then our paper since my experience all of others. Because here there is a critical content which is really driving the whole. They will ask you the mind, what are your questions? What are your research questions? But they will say region 1, region 2, region 3, saying that this is low and this is there. Really negated. Then take paper, seriously thought of analysis, photos, questions, photos, hypothesis, and see those exercise businesses. So, really, some others kind of really use in that group. Thank you. You know, in the climate change, also those who follow distance function also make a distinction between good output and bad output as well as good input and bad input. So when we talk about petroleum tax, I think the taxes also differ as you also so good output, bad output as well as good input bad. Now, using this data that we have, if you can, you can distinguish between the firms which are using specific energy from. What you only there when you become more private. Someone using more over the technology, others using more on when the so if that distinction could be drawn and the taxes on them is higher or relatively because there are incentives for our then that will enrich. So in terms of optional energy inputs, very normally taxes or incentives or input side. Again, so if you can make the distinction of I think that will make a very good idea. That's it.
Yeah.
Starts with a very good theoretical analysis.
But when it comes to physics, the problem is that what you set out in theory, those variables is very difficult to get in the practice. Because of course you can think of an energy tax, but in the province data there is no energy tax. You are artificially creating it by saying that if somebody's energy cost is more than average, he is bad. If somebody's energy cost is less than average, he is not. Now, this is not sufficiently convincing. In a much, it is progress. At least for certain firms, the details are provided. How much coal, value of coal, how much electricity, value of coal, how much natural gas, value of natural gas. And then you can compute unit of coal or per unit of natural gas, how much have they paid vis-a-vis national average or vis-a-vis others in the same region. This is one. If you don't know this, maybe you can follow region-wise there will be taxes. And the prices of different natural energy products differ from Bihar to Jharkhand to Maharashtra according to tax. And then depending on where the firm has its own plants located, you can make an assessment of how much tax suppose it has got only one plant in Maharashtra, you know what is the tax. If it has got two plants, you can make some sort of rough estimate what the tax rate it is paying. So I think this tax number should not come out of it should come from outside that this is the tax rate. It will now then become more.
Yeah, there's one.
Because it's minor suggestion and innovation, input, innovation, output. So I think innovation input is okay, but output is and rightly as said, is the consequences of innovation. So it's better, I think, if you explain it, the term innovation output is okay, but it needs to be explained in the papers. I think that will clarify what it is. Thank you.
So Pratik, I think you gave a very good background about tax and regulation. And put the context of the current scenario of when we discussed initially. And for me, actually, this only captures one part, state tax and regulation, which is largely the government driven. Nowadays, market also plays an important. In addition to this, you can see we have now we talk a lot about sustainable financing, green financing, market provisions are also there. And nowadays, in fact, every company is coming out with a net zero plan not because of the government pressure. There is no taxing and regulation issue. There is more an investor driven issue. They wanted to satisfy investors. So to me, this is one side. I think if you can take that side also, this will really enrich your paper.
So, one thing I was just need to clarify because I was about to ask and I got this is a question came from the audience, like how you are defining solid tax because the data set which we're using doesn't provide that. So, maybe I was also getting confused, like taking into account the strong assumption that we're just comparing to the data to that of the tax. So, I think likely suggested that as a table, you can also have a look of the other and you can also see the type of inputs that is going into. So in that way, that I was also finding that has to be further. You know, comparing in a way of the two specific things and also you can maybe add that why is this true other than that of the so many other instruments.
I think you start with questions, you can quickly respond.
Thank you very much for the questions and suggestions. So couple of clarification I saw before I need the answers. So on the tax, we have not used data from province on that. What we have used is we took the classification of ministry on polluting forms as 4 categories, computed the energy intensity within the forms. Within that vector, we divided into either polluting or non polluting and assume what will happen if tax increase. So goes from that. So we have not defined what is the percentage of tax or how much tax is going to be on the energy tax or on the emission tax. However, we are also working on the social cost of carbon and therefore we are trying to identify the monetary for carbon. So that is what which we are working on right now, but this paper assumes if a firm is polluting more than the average within orange category, it should be taxed. Then what will be the economic result? That was our intention of the paper. And thank you, sir, for the suggestions on the types of energy used and solar PV and renewable. One small problem is most of the energy intensive forms are innovative within the manufacturing of only energy. The other forms are not. For example, the forms the direction of the form is even for office. But still we have used this idea and try to decompose it based on types of energy used, or dependent on non-core dependent forms or natural gas dependent forms, etc. Yes, you, so here again, you, and we have energy. But we are not using it. So the idea is if tomorrow the if tomorrow then you can convert but if data I will recheck the data and see and if any form of reporting on those details, I will try to make it. Thank you very much for all comments and suggestions. It was
Actually, sir, three things we are actually working on. Is on the quality of the food. We are actually working on some standard scale and we are trying to link it, as sir mentioned. So that is one. The second is in case of these, so we have two data. One is the monetary value, the other one is physical volume that is being given. So that is largely my thesis already. So I have already done it from the production perspective. That is another paper that sir also mentioned in terms of social cost of carbon. We are trying to estimate that. But in this data, we have not downloaded the region-wise things, and but that's a good suggestion. I mean, we can do it now because if taxes will be available for different states, and then we can find out which company is located in which states, and then we can design this thing. And regarding the green financing, sir, one thing is basically there is one paper which is written by Oates in 1995 ACA journal. He is discussing about the revenue recycling, as you mentioned correctly. So on that also we have already, and we are working on that is work in progress. So we are hoping to get it.
transformed into social incubators. So the need may be now for these social incubators, right? But then there are studies which notice that it's underinvestment by the sector on socially relevant products and services, right? And these social innovators actually struggle to get appropriate financial and non-financial support even for their survival. So therefore, this CSR there is a study where they have tried to connect the CSR contributions to TBI to the UN Sustainability SDGs 9, 12, and 13. So that study is also there. So from all these background, the objective of this present study, and we see that government of India has also tried to come up with a proposition to treat this corporate funding on business incubator as a CSR activity. Funding CSR amounts to TDIs, who are actually doing this? What kind of factors or drivers are there from the firm's point of view? Okay, so that is what is the objective of this work. Now, just I went back and tried to see if firms want to invest in, say, CSR funds into technology business incubators, then what kind of theoretical rationale they can give? So what could be the thinking behind it? And some researchers even call it strategic socially relevant activities. Then another one which has come up is creating shared value. This particular idea has been propagated by Porter and here they say that companies can actually do both economic value along with addressing the needs of the society. This can be done according to them and by three ways. One is reinventing the products and the markets and redefining productivity in the value chain. That could be another way. By enabling the local environment, trusted development. So in all three, there is a scope for putting in CSR in that sense. So that is what the theoretical rationale I could see for doing this. Now there is of course this mandatory CSR now it has come up in 2013. India made this kind of idea. So there are some activities under Schedule 7 of Companies Act, and only these actually can be used for claiming CSR. So in that, on those lists, initially there was this red color that I have indicated, social business projects. This was one thing which was there, and then again afterwards they have made some amendments to this particular schedule of 7, and they also mentioned now incubators in public funded institutions as one of the activities where they can claim CSR. This is what is there in this Companies Act. So now coming to technology business incubators in India, that was actually started for sustainable growth and development. So of course, you have for-profit incubators and which generate revenue, but this government-sponsored TBIs, whatever, or government-supported TBIs are basically there are certain conditions, and one of them is that they should be some academic, technical, or research and development institutions. And now already Sharma and Vohra have noticed that there are almost 60% of the incubators which are there in India are in educational institutions. It's not perfect. So if no academic institution is part of it, then that entity should be a not-for-profit legal entity. So there are different provisions to start up. The 4 modes is what is mentioned, right? So in that you have either directly to in-house CSR mode or some sister organization, or from not-for-profit collaboration with educational institutions, or again contributions to not-for-profit TBIs, which is what is the focus in this study. So anyway, for claiming CSR, you need to be having not-for-profit kind of objective. That is very clear as per whatever I have read. It seems to be that focus has to be not-for-profit. Then only you can claim CSR. So, and in government-supported TBIs, you also have to create a governing body to administer this TBI. That means this governing body will decide where the funds will go, and not the funding company. This is what I understood. Not the company which is funding. It could be directly allowed to say you fund here, you fund there, but rather no council will be there which will decide what kind of projects the fund will go to. So direct influence, maybe it is there, but as per theory, it should not be there. So again, I was looking at the CSR. So all the data which I have collected, there are 2 sources. One for this study, the CSR data from CSR portal. So from there, various sectors where they can spend. In that, of course, education and healthcare, directly education, healthcare, and yes, there even TBI or technology incubators were visible. And in that, of course, the amount spent is very, very minimal. That is what I noticed. So I wanted to explore more. Who are these people who invest or rather spend CSR amounts on the TBI? And so I just looked at more what is the percentage of CSR expenditure towards TBI, and I noticed it is very, very low, 0.16. Out of all the CSR which are being spent, TBI has very low focus. Then I also looked at the number of companies that have contributed CSR funds to TBI. So whenever we say they have, so unique companies. So in 2014-15, it was just 24 companies which claimed CSR from this TBI. But now it is like around, in 18-19, it was around 66. Then I also looked at the frequency of expenditure. That means if a company is spending on TBI today, will it continue for next 5 years also, right? 4 years rather. 2014-15 to 2018-19, that data I have looked at. And I noticed that most of them spend only one time in technology business incubators. And very few actually do for regular amounts. So that is one thing I noticed. So now coming to studies on factors which may be determining CSR. That was my objective initially, looking at what drives this CSR in technology business incubators. I obviously did not find any work directly related to this topic. So then I was exploring, so I tried to explore even factors on CSR expenditure, whether some framework is there, some analytical framework is there. That also I did not directly find, but they are findings. Based on their objectives, look at some aspects and then talk about CSR spending at firm level I'm talking about, not the individual stakeholder theory and all they have used for management, role of management and all, but not at firm level. So, so therefore I just went and tried to see which all factors generally have been used saying that drives CSR.
So font size many have used. So that I noticed, but then again, the effect, some say it is positive, some say it is negative. Okay. In India especially, small and medium firms are supposed to be doing more of CSR, engaging in socially relevant activities. This is what one of the authors, Nair and Sodhi have found. So, but anyway, this firm size is something which I can take, is what I thought. So firm size I think as a potential determinant of CSR and TDI. And then firm's age also I noticed many looking at that. So age determines the experience and strategic position. So if they are thinking strategically, they will think where to invest CSR. So that kind of ideas. Maybe mature firms also can afford to invest in CSR because they may have more stable financial purposes. So, but in Romania, it was found that there is no much difference between old firms and young firms who invests CSR or rather spends CSR amount more or less, right? So, but still, I took firms' age also as one of the potential determinant. Then firms R&D, in the sense that there was a study which said firms that invest higher amounts on R&D is CSR policies because they make the consumers perceive them as acting socially responsible way. So that idea was there. So again, there were other studies also. So finally, that firms R&D intensity also I think as one of the variables. Then business group affiliation, family business, especially in India. What has been noticed is, like Balasubramanian has said, that family-based businesses in India has been investing traditionally. They are philanthropic kind of thing. So therefore, no, and Singh and Mittal also looked at CSR practices, and therefore business affiliates could be funding more of startup projects. Right? So that is one more variable that I have tried to take. And then financial institutions and services firms, because they are almost every time, I know that is what the study says, that financial institutions are under constant media and public scrutiny, and therefore they have to be accountable. So how do they show that accountability? Maybe through CSR work. So that is one of the reasons they may take do more of CSR, and therefore I consider that as one more variable. And then high-tech industries. So there is evidence in Germany, not in developing country or India context, but that startups established these technology intensive firms, when they establish, they can coexist with these startups. So in India, of course, biotechnology, Department of Biotechnology is trying to promote this public-private partnerships where government, industry, academia come together. So that idea is there, and they should co-invest in innovative programs. So high-tech industry firms, again, I took as one more variable. So again, the data, as I said, from CSR data taken from National CSR Portal, there we get only the names of the firms and how much they are investing on different sectors of different areas as CSR. In that, we mentioned TBI so much, technical incubators so much. So then I went to for firm level data, I need to go to some source. So for that, I went to Provis. Obviously, that is the one which everybody goes to. So usually, so name of the firm I searched in Provis. If it existed, then take out the firm level data from a Provis database. And then finally, I have a balance panel for financial year 15-16 to 18-19. So inclusion criteria for this panel was that the sample, whichever firm is part of the sample, should have undertaken some CSR during the period. So if no CSR, obviously it's not indulging in CSR, or maybe it is loss making company. And again, it should have spent non-zero CSR on TBS. Why? Because I noticed that very few firms are actually doing. So in that case, at least they should be aware that such an option exists. So that is why at least once they should have invested. And then after removing vouchers and all, I got some 72 firms for 4 years in the panel data. So data is a balance panel consisting of 32 firms. Values. affiliation and industry level factors. And therefore, finally, I thought, okay, random effects token estimation may be the best way to go forward with all these learning projects. So this is what is the specification of random effects token model. So these are the different variables which decide for the analysis. And this is the descriptive statistics where three variables are dummy variables, application, writing and financial forms. The random results, we notice negative sign on wrong sides. And statistically significant R&D application and also the industry advance. So finally, what is the findings? Small size firms stand favorably in PBI. This is in line with what Nair also saying. So similar to their work. In India, smaller firms seem to be supporting socially relevant entrepreneurial activities by encouraging incubation projects. Basically, from the incubation projects point of view, I'm trying to say. Then age is not statistically significant in my study as well. So maybe age doesn't matter as who invest in socially relevant projects. So that is what I noticed. Then I think influence positive and statistically significant. So basically, technology intensive companies seem to be more forthcoming in investing in funds for technology startups. Maybe this idea will go and align with the overall business strategy, and that is why they may be more interested. Anyway, they are technology-oriented firms, and if they invest in, say, startups, it makes sense for the overall business strategy as well. And then these firms, CSR and PBI, can also create that signaling effect. So that is what would be a reason for doing. Then business groups and banking and financial industry firms also invest more. Again, perhaps they are trying to conform to the creating shared value concept, that long term there is gains, that kind of idea might be there. And if for banking and financial services industry, it is maybe signaling theory may be applicable. That is what it seems. So most CSR funding to be to the non, that is what is the conclusion, that most of the CSR funding to not for profit collaboration with education or contribution to this is located within educational institutions. So some of the examples I try to see what kind of projects are they doing? There is no clear information on that. Although they say they are doing they are putting money CSR in incubation. What kind of projects, that details are not much there. So whatever I could find, this is what I noticed. So like JSW Steel is doing, collaborated with IITB or LAN. So whether it is doing CSR, but it is claiming CSR is what I noticed. Then Bhutik, this CSR funds. So most of this you will see is collaboration with academic institutions. So LLP is again with and then Pfizer also says IIT Delhi is doing, but then IIT is also mentioned. So I don't know which direction it is going, but then CSR is what is claimed. So again, so these details, each of them suggest maybe no direct, immediate profit making, but maybe long term, some idea is there for profit making. Some idea is there because of which they are trying to do CSR is what seems to be the case, but then that is fitting with what CSP says, like creating shared value. That idea is fitting here is what seems to be the case. So conclusion, yeah, CSR socially relevant, yet to gain popularity, and again this is from the empirical study and implications. You are extending this idea that CSR can also be a decision-making aspect. So in that sense, it is a kind of variable, if I want to say, SCP primarily, if I want to fit it, then it is a kind of variable because they have to think where to invest, how to invest, what all factors will affect when I'm trying to invest. So that way I try to correct it to that. And then again, for policymakers, if they want to really push this idea, CSR contributions or funding as projects, then maybe they will have to put in more efforts. So there is one study by Sodhi and others, which says that there is isomorphism
Where is it connected? So therefore the confusion is still kind of. I'm not convinced of this. So that's done to this. So if you put that portion of students alone, and then you go on to say that there is education. It is why that part has why only that? Yeah, because you said they have a category on education institutions. Otherwise it looks, and I don't know, on the platform 72, you have 7 with 0 values. Right, that's what you said. Okay. 7 from 0 values. You need some anyway. I think you have to think about modeling with the proper framework. Framework, so you know, then you can design on what type of thing. Otherwise, it looks to me to be some administrative thing. So, and I think that answer. Yeah,
Thank you very much for this. The second question is not really a question, it's more like a comment and sort of a conversation or possibly. Most of your studies that you have done, especially the CSR is under a very, very different institutional setup. This mandatory requirement in India, that in itself is not a problem. But that Schedule 7 insistence, and within that, you know, the real choices and so on and so forth. I think complicates the issue a little bit. So, you know, as you expand your work, you know, just the chair has just made that comment. You know, it's a first step, this is very important, but that institutional aspect of the Indian context, this mandatoriness, how do we confront this? To me, your result is very, very interesting because it's saying in spite of that mandatoriness, there is a market orientation, or there is this, you know, that within that little subsample is there. So that's an interesting, you know, first result. But in the Indian context, you know, this is something which you know, we've also got to see what signals are being put out. Some of the, I think Professor Boldar had, if I'm not mistaken, I'm maybe wrong, but you know, you had done some work some time ago about environmental signaling, if you like, in the stock market or in other places. So you see this, some of the companies are also, in spite of this, they're also signaling, like ITC, for example. Right? In their kind of ways. So, you know, is it in spite of the government requirements, you know, is some other value?
setting up, because sometimes we can simply say that it's the government programs and government orientations which are being pushed through here. Not that in this comment.
Yeah, exactly.
Sarita, if I understood your findings, the one variable was high-tech industry, at influences CSR. The CSR money goes to the startups, technology startups. But according to the definition of CSR in the Indian context, this CSR money cannot be spent on the startups. So how do you justify? Because as you very rightly said, CSR money can be sent to public funded institutions or TBS, not the individual fund. So I want to hear from you how come startups, money spent on startups can be categorized as.
Question is a very interesting premise, and it's a hard sell actually, because there is CSR legislation is new in India, PDIs are a new construct, and naturally for you to find data which can back, what you want to say is going to be hard. But I think WTT is an interesting space that one has to unpack. A couple of comments, suggestions, thoughts on this. One is this, that whatever theory may say about how CSR needs to be, at least in the Indian context, even the reason why even TBI has to be through a not-for-profit is because companies are being encouraged that if you're doing anything in this, it cannot have a profit to back to you. And that is then, so there is any kind of even long-term investment into things which are for social good need to necessarily be through the not-for-profit. So for us to be able to, and I think there's a lot of debate around that, because many companies do feel that if they could invest in their best capabilities in a way that created social good, that should also get counted, but that's not the case. So the routing of this money into TBI, therefore for companies, they have to be very careful. Will it get categorized as for-profit money? And hence, if they don't have full visibility of what the TBI uses the money for, they would much rather education where they have a very clear, they know that they are very, they know what it is being used for. It's not going into this unclear black box, which is a startup, which hopefully will create some sort of. That's one. The other angle I think is that where you're finding that R&D intensity and TBI are going together. I would wonder whether it is not so much an R&D intensity story, but a leadership thinking. Leadership thinking, they're likely to invest more in R&D, because they have a more long-term view of things. They see that these things will give us benefits. Similarly, they do feel that, okay, we can spark a little more into through our CSR activities. So I would wonder that, it's probably a leadership thinking and approach which is getting factored into how they spend on R&D and how they look at CSR, rather than these two numbers necessarily mean. That's. Okay. So thank you very much. All paper presentations are designed. Thank you.